Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk.
Hello. Hello.
How's it going?
I'm having a case of the stupids today, apparently.
You also have all the sun in your face from the... I was hoping by the time the sun came back to that big window, we'd be up in a different room with a privacy door and not a giant arched window with no shades.
I'll start bringing a parasol with me.
I actually probably have an umbrella sitting over there because I have like some horror themed one that I got in the package. We could totally do that. Just put that, just hang it up there.
Yeah, I won't make any noise with an umbrella at all that you would then have to edit out.
It would not distract me at all as you twiddled the umbrella.
That might be my first belly laugh of the new season.
Oh, yes. Welcome to season 4. Can you believe 4 seasons?
No, I can't.
And this season, we will hit our 100th episode.
Woo, woo, and there will be cake.
Like we are. We told you guys that at the end. We've warned you now twice.
Yep.
So don't be surprised.
If we're talking with our mouths full in episode 100.
I will have some sugar.
Maybe it'll be donuts. Or
we will have some sort of baked sugar item.
There will be something sweet and delicious, and it will have contained chocolate.
Yeah, it will.
I'll bring you a chocolate ice cream cake.
Nice.
Sugar and dairy.
Yes.
With almonds.
No. No, wait. Hold up.
Although, I have a question for our listeners, if anybody cares. Boba tea. You drink boba tea.
Yes.
You like it.
Yes.
You like the... Why do you like it?
I love the texture of the tapioca boba.
But what is it... What is it about it?
I'm a texture person, though. If you were to give me a bag of gummy worms or gummy bears, I would make myself sick eating them because if I enjoy the texture, even when I stop tasting it.
See, because I've been asking people, I do not enjoy the tapioca pearls. That's just not my jam. I am sometimes a texture person, but not that one. But I found a place that is like, you can get the tea without... You can
always get it without it.
Yeah.
At every single one of them you go to, you can just get tea and beef.
Yes. But have you had the popping boba balls?
Yeah, I don't actually enjoy those that much.
Oh, I do.
That's funny. My thing is they're all strongly flavored, and I don't want the fruity flavor in my tea.
I get that.
It's not that I don't like... I mean, like, it's fun to squish them. I don't enjoy it as much the chewy, though. I love a chewy thing.
See, I squish them. When I pop them, I'm like, it's like a little eyeball pop. That's why I'm a good fit for this podcast.
Yeah, and there's jelly and there's all sorts of things.
Yeah, I haven't tried the jellies or the cube.
Go to Tapioca because they have the most. It's over by Chef Bob's Lobster Trap.
Yep, I know where you mean.
They have the most options because they even have like an aloe vera gel and they have basil seeds and they have this huge array and they have it all there where you can see it so you can look at whether you might like the texture and then a bunch of different flavors. So I would recommend going there and trying different things. Here's the thing about there, although I don't think that you could determine what you were eating. They have something called Boba Madness, and you can get one of every single types of their add-ins.
Oh.
In the thing. Like, my girl child has gone it once.
What did she think?
Well, she liked it, but
okay.
I think that she, you can't taste all the different things. So she usually gets tapioca pearls and then maybe some kind of burster and then like the mango jelly. But she has very different tastes from me.
So what is the texture of the jelly like?
I kind of like a firm Jell-O that you would like sucking up a firm Jell-O with a straw.
Okay, that might be okay.
Yeah. So I get like there's a cocoa cream wow that I really like at Kung Fu Tea. So it's chocolate. So I like milk top too, and I can only get that at Kung Fu Tea and the kind I like because otherwise it's just cream. But if you get it at Kung Fu Tea, it's like almost a sour, salty, tart. Because it's more a cheese. It's actually cheese top instead of milk top. So, like, I recommend trying that there. But, like, I get normal tea with milk in it. And then Girl Child is all about like rose hip and fruity and stuff like that. So boba's perfect for her because she gets all those fruity popping things. So I like to eat real fruit and then pretty much stay away from fake fruit stuff.
Yeah, I am not big on, and the worst, in my opinion, I know everybody has their own opinion, the worst fake fruit flavor is watermelon.
My worst is peach. I find it actually foul. The fake peach. I cannot stand it. Watermelon tends to be super strong. Maybe that's it. Because real watermelon isn't strong. It's a nice, watery, refreshing.
Exactly.
Gentle, right? But if you have watermelon candy, it's super strong and it's not great.
It's disgusting.
But yeah, I abhor fake peach flavoring.
My children know. They would buy candy that was watermelon flavored because they knew I would.
You wouldn't eat it?
No, I was nuh-uh.
I think I used to like the watermelon Jolly Ranchers. When I ate Jolly Ranchers. They were big for a while. Was it in the 80s that Jolly Rancher, or the early 90s that Jolly Ranchers were just huge?
I don't remember.
I haven't had a Jolly Rancher in forever.
I haven't either.
I don't even know if they exist. I think they do because I think they come in the Halloween stuff sometimes.
I think they do. Here we go.
Random.
Last time it was cats. Today it's tapioca balls and candy.
Yeah, well, we can always be trusted to talk about food.
God, yes.
I haven't tried anywhere new because I haven't gone anywhere, but...
And I will be trying all the new places now.
Yeah, you have to.
I have to.
Do we still need to go to the Asian place?
No, that's where I went. And I said, what was it? I told him I wouldn't. I said, don't send me to a coffee place because I don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
And there was something else I said, I can do it, but I just don't care. I was like, I can't remember what it was. It was a particular food and I'm like, I can't remember what it was. But I was like, other than that, I said, look at how wide my ass is. Obviously, I like food.
Speaking of which, since I cut out the sugar, I've fallen from 199 pounds to 186.5 as of this week.
That's fabulous.
But it's also because I've gone that much lower on my medication that caused the weight gain in the first place. Because the sugar, I had like a 2-pound drop at the beginning and then it didn't seem to make a difference. But then as I dropped the medication, that seems to make a difference. But I was excited.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight.
It is.
In a reasonable time period. I'd love it for every week to drop a pound or two.
Yes.
Like that's what happened when I was on keto, but I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Much better pain levels without sugar. For anybody with fibromyalgia, I'm telling you. I cheat sometimes, but it makes a difference for me. Yay for finding things that make a difference. Although Joffrey's been like more and more lately surprising me with it. I'm like, damn it. I'm not going to turn it down. Because we discovered the Reese's Fast Break, and it has like nougat, and so it has this wonderful texture and flavor.
Ooh.
Damn Reese's, and there are 30 different variations they have now.
So
they're so good. Good.
Here's one of the things I'm supposed to do is a donut place. Okay, so there's me and Joe. What the fuck are we going to do with it? Yeah, the new location. Okay. But, so I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with a dozen donuts? And I'm like, okay, I could give them away, but I'm like, I have to taste them. I could use a knife and fork and cut one bite out of each. And then, here, would you like some lightly sampled donuts?
Have a party and then just cut it in front of everybody. This little piece, be like, I have to try each of these, but you guys can eat the rest of this.
And I was like, who can we invite over to eat donuts? Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I have sugar once a week now. Where I'm like, I can get a dessert once a week now. Yeah. And it's perfectly reasonable. I take ibuprofen first because the pain's going to come. But, like, that makes me happy. Because it's stopping pain just to cause a different kind of torture is no fun. Right? Sometimes you got to treat yourself. But I found some good stuff in keto, even though I'm not on keto. But there's a lot of good keto stuff that has the sugar alcohols and stuff. Yes. So, because I can't do Splenda and stuff because they trigger the migraine worse. But
whereas sugar alcohols can shoot through you rather quickly.
Oh, yeah. I don't eat enough for that to have been a problem, but I've heard that. So, yeah. But, like, I found a chocolate cereal that's crunchy, and so I use it as I put it in soy yogurt that I get unsweetened.
That would be good.
And it's good, because I have a crunch in it, and I like it. I'll usually put blueberries in the chocolate cereal.
Nice.
For like a late night snack. But, it's coconut yogurt. So, yay.
I haven't tried coconut yogurt.
Well, because here's the thing. I don't even like coconut. But when I was on keto, I got accustomed to, because that is a safe thing and it has fat and it has all the protein, healthy things you need, doing coconut stuff. And so, and a lot of the keto stuff is coconut. So I got used to it. Kind of like I've made myself get used to bell peppers and stuff like that, where I don't like it, but I don't hate it anymore. But the thing about the coconut stuff is, even unsweetened, there's a natural sweetness.
That's true. Do you know what I discovered? So I went to the first farmer's market was last weekend. So I bought a basket of beets.
Yeah. So a basket of dirt flavor.
Yes. But so I was like, what am I going to do with all these beets? I mean, if I had two, I would say all these beets, but I had a little basket full. So I roasted them all, peeled them, and I looked at them, give them the old hairy eyeball for a minute or two. So I made these yeast rolls. Mm-hmm. They're gorgeous. They're so vibrant, magenta colored, because you use puree the beets, and they have feta in them, so they're kind of pretty.
Oh, interesting.
And some basil and thyme and a little onion. And I made blueberry beet muffins. Wow. Again with the pureed beet. And those were really good. They don't have that earthy, intense beet flavor.
Okay.
But they're pretty. They're pink.
I once had sweet potato bread rolls that were so good.
Yes.
I got the recipe and I have never made it. And it was like 10 years ago. And I still have that recipe sitting on there. And I look at it and go, oh yeah, those were so good. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I make all kinds of things that are a lot of work. It's like certain things, though, no, not so much.
Certain things just seem like more work.
Yeah. Like you look at the instructions and you go, I don't want it. Well, if somebody else would like to make me these sweet potato rolls, I'll send you the recipe. That's how I do it now. It's funny because, like, I've said on here before, like, when the kids were young, I was making everything from scratch. And I was baking my own bread. And every week there were different muffins and homemade snacks, treats. I made homemade granola bars and all this shit. And now I'm like, we'll get that pre-made at the store. We just won't have it. I reached a point where I was tired.
I get it.
I was interviewed on a podcast that'll be on, well, not a podcast. It's a YouTube TV like talk show with authors run by Red Penguin Books, I think. Between the Covers, which could sound lascivious. Lascivious? And anyway, one of the other people on there, she was there because she wrote a memoir, because she and her husband went and lived on boats for a long time. Then they went and lived on this sailing boat for like 2 years. And she had, I think, a young child under 10.
I was going to say, are they the ones who had the baby on the boat? I think Joe might have talked about these people.
Oh, I don't know. Her name is Susan Cole, and she has a book out there. I'm sorry I can't think of the title off the top of my head. But she was interesting to talk to. And anyway, so we're talking to her about that. She was 46 or 48 when they went and did this, and she had that young child. And I'm like, I just went, oh my God, I'm 44, and just the thought of living on a sailboat with a dog, a cat, and a child in your late 40s makes me so tired. Like, I can't. I couldn't have a young child now.
I can't imagine living on a boat, because how do you get away from the people that you're with?
Right? You have to really want to be around them.
Yeah.
They were both in marketing. So they were able to do it, like go to internet cafes and stuff, because this wasn't when they could have Wi-Fi out there.
Right.
So they would go into port and go to the internet cafe and be competing with everybody for the 2 computers in the internet cafe to do their marketing jobs, which I thought was just, the whole thing sounds fascinating to me. So
it sounds interesting to read about.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
So hey, check out her memoir. I don't remember the name of it, but her name is Susan Cole. So
cool. Well, I believe you were going first this week.
I'm going first.
Neener.
I haven't read her book yet, but I do have it now. Do you enjoy going to the grocery store? If so, this message is not for you. But if you're like me and procrastinate going to the store, Instacart is a fantastic option to ensure you no longer have to. Save yourself a trip and go through Instacart, where you can get a delivery through a personal shopper in as little as 1 hour. My experiences have been great so far, with my personal shopper texting me before substituting another product, letting me know when they were on their way to my house, and letting me know it had been delivered, all via text. If you click on our affiliate link in the show notes or on our website, you get free delivery on your first order over $35, and you help out our show at the same time. It's the perfect time to give it a try.
Okay, I'm doing The Disappearance of Brittanee Drexel. I have to say that typing her name is spelled Brittanee, and every time I had to type it out, I was like, oh, I should have just called her last name. Or I should have just misspelled it. But I was just, for some reason, that is painstaking to type out. You know, sometimes there's a combination of letters or something that you're like, I don't want to type that word.
And there are sometimes I have to type out the word.
Yeah.
I can't abbreviate it.
Yeah. It's like, let's call her Brit. I don't write this anymore. Okay. April 25th, 2009, a 17-year-old girl on spring break in Myrtle Beach walked away from a friend's hotel, heading for another hotel. She was texting her boyfriend, but suddenly stopped replying, and she was never seen again. Alive. Brittanee Drexel was born October 7th, 1991 in Rochester, New York. Her parents were teenagers and did not stay together after she was born. They weren't married. Her mom married a man, and his last name was Drexel, I think Chad Drexel, who adopted her and raised her as his own. So that was the only father she really had.
Nice.
Brittanee had asked her mom if she could go to spring break in Myrtle Beach. Several of her friends were planning on going, as was her boyfriend, John Greco. Her mom refused to let her go. She didn't know the people Brittanee wanted to go with. There was not an adult accompanying them, though again, she was 17. And she also said, I have a bad feeling. I feel like something bad will happen if you go on the trip. You're not going. So she maintained her refusal. Brittanee was begging, kept asking her. So finally, Brittanee said, fine, but I'm really upset with you right now because I can't go. And can I go stay with a friend for a few days to calm down? And her mom said, okay. She knew the friend. Safe place to go, knew the parents, whatever. And Brittanee didn't go.
Yeah, we all knew.
She instead slipped off to Myrtle Beach with her friends. The thing is, though, her boyfriend couldn't go. He ended up having to work, so he didn't go, and just her friends went, and she went with them. They were staying at a hotel, and they stayed at Bar Harbor Hotel in Myrtle Beach. Her mom thought she was safely at the friend's house this whole time, and she went about her business, doing her normal stuff, letting her daughter cool off. That in itself, I think, it was good parenting, you know, like,
yeah.
But I also think she should have been,
checking
but
up,
checking
in. Yes.
Hindsight, she was giving her daughter space. I
Yes.
totally get that. So I can't hold anything against her. I think if my kids needed space from me, I would let them go to a friend's house. That's You don't resolve it by keeping them there. So I'm just throwing that out there, But anyway, so she's doing her thing, and 3 days after Brittanee goes to the friend's house, Brittanee calls and tells her mom she's at the beach, but she doesn't give details. And her mom was like, oh, great, because they live near Lake Ontario. So she assumes that the family had gone to Lake Ontario. It was 80s. It was hotter than usual, and so she just thought the family had gone to the beach. So she hears from her daughter. She knows she's alive and well, and she thinks, okay. So that's why there's not more follow-up on this, On April 25th at 8 p.m., Brittanee split up with her friends to head over to the Blue Water Resort, where another friend from Rochester, Peter Borowitz, who was 20 years old and was a club promoter, was staying with some other friends of his. It was a 1.5-mile walk. She made it safely. She's on camera. Peter says he saw her. And she didn't stay long, though, so she left about 8:45 to walk back to her own hotel. The camera showed her leaving. So there's footage of her going in. There's footage of her going out. And she had this big beige purse, huge. I was looking at it, you see that in the footage, and I'm like, God, that's why I don't carry around a purse. And she was wearing shorts, a tank top that was black and white, and flip-flops. She was texting back and forth with her boyfriend, so when she stopped replying at about 9:15, he got concerned. It wasn't like her to ignore him, John had phone numbers for her friends, so he texted them to find out if she'd made it back, but they hadn't seen her or heard from her, and she wasn't in the room. So John called her mom.
Uh-oh.
And to say, hey, I'm worried. This isn't normal. She's not responding. We didn't have a fight, And this is, of course, the first her mom finds out that she ran away to Myrtle Beach to be with her friends. And so they're all trying to call her. The friends now, the mom, John, she's not answering for anybody. And so her mom calls the police. They didn't start the search for Brittanee until the next day, when she still hadn't made it back. So, I mean, you know what they would have said. She's a 17-year-old. She met some people. She's hanging out with them. She doesn't want to talk to her boyfriend. Maybe she's with a boy. You know, like, I'm sure all that crap. It wasn't in there. I'm just saying, this is what you totally expect from every other story like this. Yeah. They're like, tell us if she's still gone tomorrow. But they did start looking for the next day. It wasn't like a 48-hour bullshit thing.
Right.
And they quickly obtained the camera footage and spoke with Borowitz, the club promoter at the other hotel, and his friends, but they didn't consider any of them persons of interest, especially because they'd seen her leave alone and they didn't see them follow her.
Right.
You know? So they're off the docket there. A search of her hotel room showed the items from the video, her clothes and purse were not in the room, so they didn't think she'd return there. And left her purse or something. They pinged her phone and found it had stopped pinging about 60 miles south of her last known location. Video from another location close to her hotel showed she'd almost made it back. She was just literally right there when whoever got her. And the pinging for her phone had stopped in the early morning hours after her disappearance. They didn't say exactly what time. So police searched that general area too, and up here where she disappeared and everywhere in between, the best they could. But they didn't find any clues. They didn't say, find her purse. Or, nothing was found. Brittanee's mom eventually moved down to Myrtle Beach, wanting to be near her daughter and, where she disappeared so she could keep actively searching for her. At some point, her last name changes. So at some point, there was a divorce. I don't know if it was before Brittanee disappeared or after. I have no idea. Because at one point it said when she got the phone call from John, she called Chad, who's her husband, to let him know. And I'm like, so was he at work or were they already split up? Nothing said. So she felt Borowitz, the promoter friend, might have something to do with Brittanee's disappearance, and apparently they went at each other on Dr. Phil about it. Wow. But even the police didn't think he had anything to do with, She also feared that her daughter had been trafficked and that she wouldn't have defied her unless there was a good reason, and that she'd been lured down there with something like a modeling job or something similar, which I think that's hopeful parentals. Yeah. Like, she wouldn't have defied me. Yeah, she defied you. She lied. She went down there because she wanted to go to spring break with her friends. Police told her there wasn't a trafficking issue in the area, but it would later be shown that the county was number 1 in South Carolina for trafficking. So they were denying trafficking and saying it doesn't happen here, and yet it was the number 1 area for it. I mean, come on, it's Myrtle Beach. It's spring break area. Of course there's trafficking there.
Yeah.
They love to kidnap little white blonde girls and in those areas. Like, that's what they do. They sell them for a premium. That sounded terrible, but you know what I'm saying. The trail remained cold until 2016. In June of that year, the FBI offered a $25,000 reward to anyone who could give them information that led to the case being closed. They felt that she'd been taken to Georgetown, which is where her phone stopped pinging, was about in that area, and murdered there. With cash now on offer, plenty of tips came in, but there was one the FBI took seriously.
What year when did she go missing again?
So this is 2006, and she went missing in 2009. 2016, and she went missing in 2009.
Okay, so it's 5 years later. Okay, that's what I wanted to establish.
So the one they took seriously was from another FBI agent, and he said that a man convicted of manslaughter, Taquan Brown, had witnessed Brittanee's death. Supposedly, he'd seen her being sexually assaulted by a group of men and that she'd gotten away briefly while he was there paying off a drug debt. A boy named Timothy Deshaun Taylor, who was 16 years old at the time, had taken part in the gang rape and was the one to chase her out of the house, pistol whip her, and drag her back inside. Out of Brown's vision, there were 2 gunshots, and he later saw a wrapped body, which they took and dumped in the swamp. The belief was that alligators would have eaten the body. So that's actually why I happened across this, was that it was like a trivia thing about that. They thought the alligators had eaten her body. Okay. So he related this to the FBI agent at some point earlier. And so when this FBI agent heard this, because it's not like they all talk to each other about all their cases or even in the same area, then he went and he said, hey, listen, this guy said this. Another witness who has not been named backed up the accusations against Taylor, saying he kidnapped her in Myrtle Beach, taken her to McClellanville, and had planned on trafficking her, but she got too much police attention, so he had to kill her. Taylor had already gotten in trouble via the state for being a getaway driver in a McDonald's robbery in 2011. The feds then went after him for the same crime, which was later admitted to being because they suspected him of Brittanee's murder but couldn't prove it. It is legal for federal charges to follow state, and therefore not double jeopardy if there are specific details involved. In his case, they felt that he'd gotten off so much lighter than the others because he was just the getaway driver, and they had shot the clerk, the two who had gone in, and so they'd gotten like 30 years, and he'd gotten some light probation or whatever.
Right.
And so they used that to say, well, the punishment did not fit the crime, so we're going to retry him, basically. It was all complicated, and that's a very simplistic explanation, so don't call me on legalities, folks. You don't want me to have to go into all of it. I did read it because I was like, what? And here's the interesting thing, too, just briefly. During the process of this, because, legal things take a long time, a lot of the time.
Yes.
During the process of this, it was actually taken, not because of him, but in other cases, to the Supreme Court to fight this ability of the government to retry and it not be double jeopardy. But it was found in the government's favor, so they were allowed to continue. And so then, because his case actually got put on hold while this was being determined. And then when the government won, they went, okay, now we can still do this. So there was a whole thing about that. There's a lot more if anybody wanted to read that part if you're into law. I don't know. The original witness, Brown, gave an interview February 2019 to a TV station and said Brittanee had been sexually assaulted in the stash house 2 days after her disappearance. He said it was 8 to 12 men assaulting her and that she did not die on this night. He claimed to have met her several times over the course of a month, like in company of these people, and that a man named Nate killed her with a double-barreled shotgun at that time on a property, and they buried her. The TV station had visited the stash house and said Brown's descriptions matched it, so that part was accurate. But their attempts to corroborate the story in other ways by talking to other witnesses Brown had named fell through. A couple of them had died, stuff like that. Other people they just couldn't find. Brown sued the original agent and other feds for identifying him and putting his life in danger, claiming Taylor had put a bounty out on him. So this is the whole shit fest, all this. And again, this is much bigger. If you wanted to read about this, such a mess. Ultimately, this is important. Or no, there's important stuff later. Ultimately, Taylor would be found to show deception during a lie detector test where they asked him about Brittanee, and he would be sentenced in June 2019 to 3 years probation on the robbery charges, but would not be charged with Brittanee's death. Even so, his parents said his life and his father's, as some report his father being part of it, and his father being the dealer and stuff like that, again, big mess, was ruined, and that the accusations had followed after his name was released in the press as a person of interest in her disappearance, because they named him publicly.
Oh.
And I will say he was a black man, and this was thought to be racially motivated, as in accusing him and putting his name out there and stuff like that.
Right.
But this followed him then because people thought he was a rapist and murderer. And for years. So, and I'm just going to say now, this is a spoiler, he was never charged with it. He didn't do it. So, just to have that clear so I'm not also sullying his name. Then in May 2022, a 62-year-old registered sex offender named Raymond Moody turned himself in to the Georgetown sheriff for something else. There was a warrant for obstruction of justice charge that he had pending, and he went and turned himself in. He had been a person of interest in Brittanee's disappearance since 2012, as he'd received a traffic ticket in a beach town between Myrtle and Georgetown, and his status as a sex offender came up, so it had pinged him as, and he couldn't give them information that made him not a suspect, basically. So they'd been considering him, but had no proof. He'd previously served 21 years in prison for abducting a 9-year-old girl and raping her in 1983 in California. That girl, Carrie Harding, feels she only got away because she talked him into letting her go to the bathroom after several hours of assaulting her in his car. He allowed her to get out and squat behind the car, and he held her hair, like, a fist of her hair, so she couldn't run or anything while she was squatting peeing. And then she said she started peeing, and then this massive puddle of blood was forming under her. She was bleeding from it. She'd been hours of him assaulting her and abusing her. And it's like it startled him, and he kind of let go of her hair, and she got up and ran. And that's why she got away. Several months after their assault, she remembered seeing a sticker on his car. It was this green sticker that allowed you access to the Navy base there. Now, I had a sticker for the the Air Force Academy here because my high school was on it, even though I wasn't military. And so you had to have a sticker on your car so they could wave you through without having to ID everybody. See?
Right.
So, and then I had it when I was older because I had to have access to go get my sister.
Right.
So that's the kind of sticker that this was. And once she described this sticker to them, they were able to then narrow down, right, their pool of suspects because they had information. But now all of a sudden it was somebody who had access to the naval base. And they found him. Within 2 days of her remembering that sticker, they were able to arrest Moody. And I did put her name out there because she has done interviews and stuff like that. So she appears to be okay with having her information out there. And she wanted his information out there because she didn't want other girls to go through what she'd gone through. So this is why I mentioned her name. So they arrested him within a couple days. He ended up being convicted of kidnapping and raping 7 girls between the ages of 5 was his youngest and 17 was his oldest, which got him a sentence of 42 years. And that's what got him the 21 he spent in prison. Then he got to get out after serving half. Mm-hmm. And again, these sorts of sexual predators, they don't stop. So when we let them out of prison like this, they just go out and do it again. Mm-hmm. I hate it so much. On May 4th, he confessed to having killed Brittanee. So I'm sure there was questioning involved in all that, but he did admit that he'd killed her. He was able to lead them to her remains, which were successfully collected and tested and shown to be hers. She had been raped, strangled, and buried in the early morning hours on the 26th. So she disappeared the night of the 25th. Oh. She was dead by that morning on a private property in the woods near Georgetown, about 3 miles from the hotel where he'd been living at that time. But he got her from Myrtle Beach. Not only did this mean Taylor had not killed Brittanee, again, I want to be very clear about that. That first guy who was accused, who was 16, had not killed Brittanee. It also meant she hadn't been the woman, if there was indeed one, that Brown had witnessed being assaulted, trafficked, and murdering. And I point that out because after that, in every single article, nobody talks about the fact there was possibly some young blonde girl who had been kidnapped in Myrtle Beach and assaulted, gang raped, and kept as property. Mm-hmm. I'm like, does anybody give a shit that there might still actually be another woman that you just don't know and her parents weren't as actively seeking her? No, apparently nobody cares about that part. So, moving on. Charges of kidnapping, first-degree criminal sexual misconduct, obstructing justice, and murder are currently pending for Moody. So, again, this was just 2022. Right. In May. that this happened. He is eligible for the death penalty. He's also being considered in the disappearance of a 28-year-old mother named Crystal Souls in 2005. One article stated that Moody had been married at one time when he was in the Navy and that he had 3 children, but there was no more information about that. So this is a father who's attacking small girls like this. And somebody who'd been in jail with him said he asked him why he started doing it. And he just said, after the first time I did it, it just felt right and I kept doing it. Ugh. A celebration of life was held for her June 11th in Rochester. So June 11th, we're recording on, what's today's date? The 16th. This is how, so I won't have his final charges, but that's why this popped up. And another will be held in Myrtle Beach soon. Now that they have her remains, there's a memorial fund set up for her through givesendgo.com, but I'm not going to be linking to it because I don't know what the fund is for. It's not like it goes to a charity that I could tell when I looked at it. And so I'm like, so the family just wants money because she died? I don't understand.
Right.
So I'm not, if you want to look it up, go for it. But I'm not linking to it because that's weird. Does anybody want to send me money because my dad died? Do you want some money?
I would love some money.
Great. If you want to send us money because we lost our parents I was just like, that's weird. I don't know how that works. But
I mean,
this may be just my weird not understanding social things. Why?
No, if it was attached to a charity, I would totally get it.
Which there appears to be one for her. Oh my God. But I just spit 3 times. There appears to be something called Brittanee's Little Angels, but I really just, the information wasn't forthcoming. And so, I'm not saying anything weird is happening. I'm not saying other people don't ask for money because they said in lieu of flowers. I just don't understand that, but I don't have a long history of funeral things. And I'm like, okay, you want money, but for what? I did want to briefly touch on Crystal Souls' disappearance because it's not getting the attention. It didn't get the attention Brittanee did. She lived with her dad and her 5-year-old son and was known to have substance abuse problems, which sometimes led to her disappearing for days at a time. However, her father said that she always contacted her son even when she was gone in these times. On January 21st, she was at Shaw's Corner Store in Andrews, South Carolina, and she purchased a hot dog, which she ate there. She called her father and asked him to pick her up, but he was too sick. He was actually going through cancer treatments, and her mom was at work. So she started walking home. The clerk was the last one to see her alive, and she never made it home, so he's the one who reported that she'd eaten the hot dog in there and then gone out and used the phone. She is blonde with blue eyes and dimples. Her son said she was a loving mother. He's in his 20s now.
Oh.
He said she always, he had told a story about watching the Smurfs with her all cuddled up and stuff. You know, she was a troubled girl, woman, but she wasn't a terrible person. And I think it's the fact that she had substance abuse problems that make it so that she doesn't.
Right.
You know, when there's something like that, they're not the golden child. They're not the...
Nope.
So, yeah. Anyway, her mother, Gail, assisted in searches for Brittanee, and the families actually became close because,
going through the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. And longer, and they were kind of there to reach out and say, here's what you can expect during this, and support her. So I thought that was nice. I did find a piece by an employee in a detention center where she was briefly before she went missing, who stated that Crystal was a police informant, and while there, she'd said she was safer in jail, though she didn't say why, because the person working there said, you'll be out soon. She said she really liked her. She was a very sweet person, not a bad person. And when she said, you'll be out soon, that was how Crystal responded. I'd be safer if I stayed here. So that's a little extra information there. Moody was a person of interest in her case before he confessed to Brittanee's killing, just for the record. And it has not been said why, but I imagine it's the same thing. He was in the area. It's not that far. Andrews, where she disappeared, is only 20 miles from Georgetown.
Oh.
So very close. If anyone knows anything about her whereabouts or details about her disappearance, they can call the Andrews, South Carolina Police Department at 843-264-5223 or the 25-hour tip line. 24-hour tip line for the CUA Center for Missing Persons at 910-232-1687. And I will have posted pictures of her up on our Instagram and stuff in addition to Brittanee. Sources were Wikipedia, WMBF News, People article by Chris Harris. Victim of serial sex offender charged in Brittanee Drexel's death recalls 1983 horror by Yaron Steinbuck in the New York Post. Family of former suspect in disappearance of Brittanee Drexel devastated by investigation by Julia Jacobo for ABC News. The Sun, Heavy.com, Wham News, NC Missing Persons, even though it was South Carolina, but whatever. Georgetown and Beyond News Online, which is called Gab. So, yeah. So it was, I think that there's probably way more cases they don't know about that Moody did. Because, too, in that span when he'd attacked all those young girls previously in California, seems like that wasn't a person who wasn't, it's just that he learned to kill them.
It's,
after he served 21 years, that's what he came out having, that's how he was changed in prison, was to know to kill him.
So, what's really odd, and I don't know if people know this, we don't talk about what stories we're doing in advance. We don't talk about them until I get here and you say, what do you got? Or I say, what do you got?
Yeah, because then we kind of figure out lightly how to combine them, what makes more sense together.
Yeah, yeah. And are they both terrible? Or is one
right? Is one lighter, so it should go last?
Or
there's so many things to the dynamics that we do.
So it's really surprising to me that the one I did is a man fairly similar.
Yeah.
I am going to talk about Robert Garrow for a couple of reasons. So I have to thank Nikki, thing two, for bringing this one to my attention, because she does that. And I do use stuff and I don't always remember to go, Nikki brought this to my attention, but now I am. Thank you for this. I have to
thank Nikki too, because I never wrote to her, because every time I get on Facebook, I forget the people that I'm supposed to write to, and so thank you for picking my book for your book club book at work. That's awesome. I loved hearing that.
Oh, by the way, I mentioned that if they wanted to speak to the author, that
could.
That might be able to be arranged.
Nice.
So she sent me a podcast. Hold on, let me find the name of the podcast. It's Serial Killer. It's the Serial Killer Documentaries YouTube channel, and the guy does not have his name.
He might have been one that I've used in the past. I remember there was like a YouTube show and I was like, I don't know.
And he does this voiceover. So And here's something that cracked me up. He correctly pronounced Schenectady, New York, but there were a lot of other towns that I was like, wait, what? Where? And then when I was reading it, I went, oh, okay, now I know where he's talking about. This happened relatively close to where I grew up. Upstate New York, around in the Syracuse area, which is a couple hours away.
Which is still, because it didn't happen there, but Brittanee was from Rochester.
Yes, I was. As soon as you said that, I thought Rochester. So Rochester's a little bit further away, but secondly, two of the victims that I'm going to talk about were close to my age when this happened, and I don't remember hearing anything about this in the news. However, to be fair. I was like 9-10 years old, and this was the summer that my father died.
Oh, well, so okay. Gosh, and you weren't paying attention to the things happening in the news at that age?
I'm thinking that aliens could have landed in my backyard, and I would not have noticed. Yeah. So, my attention was elsewhere. But I did not have time. I wanted to post on Facebook and ask other people I know in upstate New York, does anybody remember this? So... I may still do that.
I feel like that's an upstate rural New York thing because, I never think to post and be like, hey, my family in Oregon, do you remember every serial killer that ever existed in the Pacific Northwest? Because there's a lot.
Y'all had a lot more than we did.
As far as I know, right? Because B&W is really popular with weirdos.
So, back to Robert. He was actually Robert Garrow Jr. He was born in 1946 in Dannemora, New York, which is in this extreme northeast corner of New York. His parents were French-Canadian. They were dirt poor. They lived on a farm. His father was a miner. He claimed, and his siblings have all claimed, that their parents were violent disciplinarians and would hit their children all the fucking time for little or no reason and with whatever was handy. Mm-hmm. So, a chunk of firewood. At one point, his mother beat him with a brick. I can't imagine being that angry at my child to beat him with a brick. His sister remembers him being beaten unconscious as a child by his mother because she was afraid he was dead, so she threw water on him to revive him. There was now the very oldest sibling, a son, was given away at birth and never heard from again.
Probably lucky for him.
Yeah. So here's a quick aside. His oldest sister later became the mother of Suzanne Basso, who is one of 6 people convicted in the 1998 torture and murder of a mentally disabled man for his insurance money. Yeah.
Wow.
So, Garrow fought all the time with his father, who was apparently also a raging alcoholic. Mm-hmm. His parents sent him off to work at neighboring farms beginning at age 7. And it's...
Yeah, my mom, it was the farming thing. She was out there picking strawberries and stuff at a young age. That in itself isn't... Because my grandpa had other jobs, and he even went out there and picked strawberries with them to make the extra money.
But his mom kept all the money, and it was extreme hours.
Okay.
It was dawn till dusk.
Yeah, no protection.
No. Plus, he was working at their farm. They didn't send him to school. He didn't have any kind of social contacts. He obviously didn't have any familial support. And perhaps in part because of this lack of social contact, I'm sorry, I'm actually apologizing for what I'm about to share. He started having sexual relations with farm animals, specifically cows, horses, sheep, and dogs.
So...
both at home and at the farms where he worked.
Again, my parents grew up in a rural area, and they could name the people that that talked about doing that. That's so disturbing and gross. And
he also admitted to masturbating with a milking machine.
Huh.
That's what I said when I first read it.
I didn't think about that.
I believed out loud. I went, huh.
It's a gentle enough suction that it's not meant to hurt the cow. Okay, I'm not going to go into that, but
thank you. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to warn you. This is one man.
I hope everybody's enjoying their milk right now.
This is one man who did absolutely nothing to help himself when he started testifying at his trial. Because a lot of this stuff, they never would have known. He confessed to so much shit during his trial. But we'll get there. He was sent to reform school at age 15.
We won't send you to normal school, but we'll send you to reform school.
So when he was released, he joined the Air Force, where he was the subject of ridicule, in part because he didn't have any social skills, and in part because he was still a bedwetter. He was court-martialed for stealing. He had been in less than a year. He was court-martialed for stealing money from a superior officer and sent to military prison. So when he was released from prison, he was dishonorably discharged. I mean, he wasn't in the Air Force for very long, and most of it was in prison.
Okay.
So, but he returned to New York when he was discharged, where he got married.
Oh, lucky her.
Yeah. So he sleeps with farm animals and he wets the bed, but he still found someone to marry.
Right out of prison.
Yeah. And he had a child. He had a son. Oh. That was the first, and he said that was the first sexual contact he had with a woman, was when he got married.
Wow.
When he married this woman. So, in 1961, he was arrested for the rape of a teenage girl after knocking out her boyfriend with the butt of a gun.
Wow.
Uh-huh. He was sent to jail and served 9 years. Again, jail appeared to have no impact.
It just teaches them how to not get caught.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's going to get caught because we know his name. But you know what I mean? Like, it just teaches them, well, what did I do that got caught?
And he does claim that he was involved in abusive relationships while he was in jail.
Okay.
But he also claims, while he was married, I do not remember if it was before or after he went to jail, that he was in a bizarre sexual relationship with a gay lawyer who would dominate him and take pictures of him. Yeah. So in 1972, after he got out, he was arrested for unlawful imprisonment when it didn't say kidnapped, but he captured and tied up 2 college girls who later refused to press charges. This, in 1972, I totally could understand where they're coming from. I don't agree necessarily with it, but I can understand it was a very different time then. At any rate, they didn't press charges. In 1973, in Gettys, New York, which is just west of Syracuse, he abducted 2 girls. They were 9 and 11 years old who were walking home. They were walking home together. When he spotted them by themselves, and he drove around, apparently he would drive around looking for girls by themselves. He pulled over. He watched them for a while to make sure there was nobody else around. He flashed a fake badge and told them he was with the police. He made up the most cockamamie story, but they got in the car with him. He told them they had to. And 9 and 10 years old. 9 and 11.
You don't know. Adults fall for that.
Yes. So he drove them to a secluded spot, threatened them with a plastic gun, and sexually assaulted them. Although, at least he left them alive. He was arrested a short time later, but he jumped bail and became a fugitive at this point. It was really funny. Out of the articles I read, it was very hard to get things in linear order because the awareness that he'd committed these crimes wasn't in linear order. It was like he got arrested for one thing and then they found out about another that had happened earlier. So I'm just trying to make it make sense. Trying to make the timeline easier to follow. But he confessed to rape at his trial for murder. What the fuck? Anyway, should I have said spoiler alert for that? In July, so this was in 1973 when he had abducted the 2 young ladies. In July of 1973, he killed 4 people. One young lady was kidnapped and raped repeatedly before he killed her. There was a group. Oh, this was where Schenectady came in. There were these 4 teenagers from Schenectady who were camping in the Adirondack Park. And he was driving in his little orange VW hatchback something. And he saw their campsite from the road. And he pulled over and went into their campsite with a rifle. So he forces them all out of their tents. And he's talking about it in great detail.
Here's kind of the crazy thing about this. Rapists in general, molesters, tend to be very cowardly, right? It's the easy victim. It's the this. But he went beyond that. Knocking out the boyfriend in the one case, right?
Yes.
A lot of times, and yes, he was still looking for girls alone, but he kind of went above and beyond.
Yeah. So he has a rifle and he forces them out of the tents and into the woods. So he makes them tie each other to trees until the last one. The last one was the girl. It was 3 guys and a girl, and he tied her to the tree, and they can't see each other. Now they're within earshot of each other, but they can't actually see each other. One of the teenagers was trying to stand up to him, and unsuccessfully. He was trying to stand up to him. He was trying to fight back. Garrow pulls a knife out of his pocket and starts stabbing and slashing this guy.
This is weird because I swear this sounds super familiar. Like one of us covered just this portion of his crime and like an amalgamation of something else, but we didn't talk about the wider story and around it.
That could be. So he slashes his chest several times before stabbing him and killing him. So he fled at that point, which is unusual for him. The other 3 were able to free themselves and reported the attack to the police. And then the police were like, there was just blood everywhere. It wasn't like he slit his throat. It was horrible. So this led to the largest manhunt in New York State history at that time. Mm-hmm. It lasted 12 days. There were roadblocks, people. They would stop people and search their car trunk. They had to open their trunks.
Again, I figure it's alarming that he attacked a whole group of people at once. Like that would get the police on their feet, wouldn't it?
Yes. The public was being warned. This is why I can't believe I don't remember anything, because where I grew up was right on the edge of the Adirondack Park, and they were warning people not to pick up hitchhikers. This guy is loose, he's armed, he's dangerous. When he was finally cornered, he was shot in the foot, the arm, and the back by Environmental Conservation Officer Hillary J. LeBlanc. I would like to tell you, do not fuck with conservation officers.
Right?
Because their job is not the same as law enforcement, but by God, they are tough people. Garrow survived and was taken into custody. He later claimed partial paralysis due to his injuries.
Wow.
There was no...
At least it wasn't partial death, fucker.
He also tried to sue the state of New York for his injuries and unsubstantiated paralysis claims. Uh-huh. There was no medical evidence. I mean, the x-rays, I don't know if they were doing MRIs back then, but they were like, there's no damage. There's no lasting damage. There's no fucking reason you can't walk. So he was eventually tried for this murder. The murder of this young man. He had tried the insanity plea, but that was rejected. But in the course of the trial, admitted to other crimes, including rape, sodomy, and murder. He was sentenced to 25 years to life in the Clinton Correctional Facility, which is located in Dannemora, which was a maximum security prison. Mm. And that's where he was born, in that area. So what goes around does come around. He frequently tried to get transferred to medium security Fishkill facility due to his disability claims. They were denied. He had to be moved eventually because there was a threat on his life. In 1978, he was given that transfer to Fishkill. So I'm going to sidetrack a little bit on what Nikki would call a fun fact. For anybody who doesn't know Nikki, when Nikki says fun fact, just fucking cover your ears and run, because it's never fun.
I will listen.
It is a fact, but it's rarely fun. So, while in custody, Garrow had these 2 lawyers. And they're talking to him, and they want to know everything, because they don't want to be surprised at trial. He reveals the location of 2 of his victims' bodies to his lawyers. They can't say anything because of attorney-client privilege. They actually investigated. They went out and found 2 bodies. One was in a mine shaft. They had to get a flashlight and a camera, so they went down there and took a picture. The other one was behind a building near a cemetery, and the skull had become separated from the rest of the body. And the lawyer actually moved the skull, put it back with the rest of the body to take a picture, to document. So it was tainting evidence.
Yes.
Disturbing a crime scene, all that good stuff.
Why would he do? You'd think a lawyer would know better if they're in this
You
line.
would think. But they were ethically obligated not to incriminate their clients. One of them was actually charged and brought before the grand jury, but the indictment was eventually dropped. The 2 lawyers did suffer for this, though. And it sparked a huge debate about clients' rights. And a lot of people said, it's really funny because the sentiment seemed to be, you absolutely could not violate the attorney-client privilege, but you absolutely should have found a way to tell somebody to reveal this. Their hope was that once he had told them and they had verified it, they claim, their hope was that they could get him to confess on record and to lessen something else. So besides this other guy, he killed 3 other people in 1 month in July. I'm like, it was just insane. So this will shock you. He escaped Fishkill on September 8th of 1978. He had a gun that his son smuggled into him in the bottom of a bucket of chicken.
Oh my God.
And the guards had been, so this is his second or third institution where he'd been incarcerated. So the guards they admitted they were buying into his can't walk, partially paralyzed. Fucker scaled a 15-foot fence. Perhaps with the bucket of chicken. I don't know. It didn't say.
You need a snack.
So yeah, he obviously was not paralyzed. So they're hunting for him. This triggered another manhunt, and it was again in the Adirondacks because that's where he went before. That's where he went to ground before. So the circle is getting bigger and bigger. However, in reality, he was close to the prison. He had found a hole in the ground. Basically, he had hunkered down in a hole in the ground, covering himself with leaves and branches because he was waiting for the search to get bigger and go further out, and then he would escape. However, he was spotted by the guards a few days after he escaped. He shot one prison guard in the leg when they went after him, who survived, but he was shot and killed by another guard. So, yeah, I'm not shedding any tears over this one. And it was funny because I looked at, now I didn't cite it as a source because, what is it, Wiki? Where people talk about.
Oh, yeah. Reddit?
Reddit. Thank you, not Wiki. Reddit. Where people, and sometimes Reddit is a source. It can lead you to other stuff. But people were talking about this case and it was almost unanimous. People are like, I could feel for a guy who had this hard of a beginning, who had such abuse at home. But, dude, when you start attacking children and you start raping and you start killing, nobody has any sympathy for you whatsoever. I mean, the stuff that he confessed to during the trial just blew me away. The thing about, he had sex with farm animals, he estimates, for 10 years. From the age of 10 to roughly the age of 20. I'm guessing until he got married.
I feel like it's easier to masturbate, yo. Especially once you figured out the milking machine.
Why did he need to tell them that? About the milking machine? Or the farm animals?
I assume he was mentally stunted in such a way from his not being near regular, normal society that he didn't have shame about it.
And he talked about other rapes he had committed. And I'm like, holy shit. It blew my mind. And I will go ask and see if anybody up there recognizes the name or remembers this going on. Mm-hmm. Because it was just a few years ago, it was within recent memory that 2 prisoners escaped from prison up there and went on the lam in the Adirondacks. They were heading for Canada. They didn't make it. They made a movie out of it. I'm like, what's the thrill of the movie about hiding in the woods? I don't. 2 escaped convicts hiding in the... We all know how it ended. It's like saying the Titanic is a suspenseful movie. We know how the fucker ends.
Right? Did you ever watch the documentary for The Staircase? That murder, or possible murder, possible accidental death, possible owl killing?
No.
I find the case fascinating, but because it's always in the forefront, because first there was a documentary, now there's a fictional series with Toni Collette as the victim.
Yes.
And Colin Firth as the husband.
Yes.
And so I'm not going to do it while it's so popular, right? But I watched the miniseries, then the fictional take on it, but it still blows my mind that they tried to say an owl did it because there were owl feathers or something, microscopic owl feathers. And I'm like, she was sitting in their backyard before she went inside. Like, yeah, I guess maybe some owl feathers. And we might all have microscopic feathers on us if we, But anyway, I just watched that. So I just finished. I was wondering if you'd watched it.
I have not.
Intriguing case.
I have been reading my brains out lately.
Gross.
Yeah. Hurts a little. I finally decided I had to reorganize my bookcase. One bookcase out of the entire house. Because it's where I have shoved my to-be-read pile. And my signed books. And then just some random books that we own. So I decided I needed to clear things out. Because there are books in my to-be-read pile that I'm not going to live long enough to read my to-be-read pile. People are like, ha ha ha, how big is your pile? No, it's an entire fucking bookcase.
Right. I have a bookcase and then a mini bookcase in my bedroom and then a stack in my bedroom that are the...
Yes. And these are not like lined up neatly on a shelf. These are stacked side by side, 2 deep, So I separated it into fiction and nonfiction, and I got all my signed books because I know some writery people. I got all those displayed on the top shelf, and so so when I say I've been reading a lot, sometimes I sit down with a book and I try to give it a half an hour or so, and if I read for half an hour and I'm like, I do not fucking care what happens to these people, or, I picked up one and it was hard sci-fi, and I thought, 25 pages in, and I've gotten 3 sentences about the main character, and everything else is about the technology. That's fine for some people. That is not something I enjoy reading, and I'm not going to live long enough to become interested in it.
I went through a period where I enjoyed a Michael Crichton book, but I think if I try to read that now, I just don't have the bandwidth anymore.
Yeah. And so I've been, the discard, and I don't throw books away. Friend of ours has a little library in front of her house now. So I'm like, I will fill that for you anytime you want. Yeah. So yeah, I donate them. Or I give them to people who I think would like them.
Yeah. I've been really a lot better about getting rid of books, but I still have 3 shelves downstairs that are the books I've read. Mm-hmm. And so I need to go through them and see what I can part with. But a lot of them are like series from favorite authors or whatever, and those I'm not going to get rid of, even if I'm not going to read them again. So I haven't gotten that far in my evolution. Well, but, I'm not going to get rid of my Stephen King books. I'm not going to get rid of my Kelly Armstrong books. I'm not going to get rid of the Alphabet series and stuff like that. So,
and it's funny because King is one of the authors I'm sort of on the edge with. Because I'm like, I've read it again a couple of years ago. And I'm like, I'm not going to read it again.
No.
So and I have a nice hardcover version, but I'm like, do I keep it because it's a Stephen King hardcover? Or do I gift it to someone who would enjoy it?
Yeah, my parents still have some first editions of those, and what is it? Probably, anyway, they have some big writers and stuff because they were always readers and they kept the books, but now they just have like the one little shelf that has a couple books on it because they got rid of most of them.
And that's not even counting what's on my Kindle.
Yeah. I just got a new Kindle, so that's... Jennifer got me a new... It's like the Paperwhite. It's the closest to that, so it's not backlit. I can't use the backlit ones. That would be bad, but... They have something so that it's not blue light or whatever that comes out of it. So that's nice. It's much lighter. It's easier to read that, and he moved everything over for me. So nice and convenient when somebody does that for you.
It is.
But yeah, I actually started getting rid of friends' signed books because I can introduce them to other people if I put them out when I put all the books outside for people. And then they can maybe get another reader. And I decided that's more valuable than me keeping them on a shelf. So,
and I will confess, I did not keep all the signed books that I had.
Yeah.
I mean, I have one signed book by Terry Pratchett. I will never get rid of that. And I'll never get rid of any of my Pratchetts, but those are a very big comfort read for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting rid of those.
I mean, if there's a super personal message, then I would keep it or whatever, but.
Do you remember Deanna's first book? Deanna Knipling, the Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Yeah.
I will never get rid of that because I went to her first book signing and she said, she was kind of like, oh gosh, what do you want me to write? I said, write something funny. So she wrote, MB, don't forget to change your underwear. I'm like, I will never get rid of that. Cracks me up every time.
I gave that one to my daughter. So,
yeah.
Because, my daughter's a fan of her.
Yes, she is.
Her books, her middle grade books, I guess, under a different name. So, what is that other name?
D. Kenyon.
D. Kenyon, yes. So if people want those, it's
God, I remember.
A fantasy series involving animals, and it was just perfect for my daughter, and she loved every single one of those that Deanna put out under D. Kenyon. So there you go, a recommendation. But I have a picture of her reading one of her books that she had read so many times that it was just battered. And she just kept reading it over and over and over again. So, here you go, if you're looking for middle grade reading. And Fleur Bradley is winning all kinds of
Midnight at the Barclay Hotel.
Yeah, and her new one, which is, something Raven Island.
Oh, I don't remember the new one.
But anyway, look her up. Darby Karcha is getting some news for her. So if you're looking for middle grade, elementary, middle school, check them out. Because we don't recommend those ones on here much.
No, we don't.
Because we don't necessarily read them. I did read Midnight at the Barclay Hotel, and I talked about it on here, I think. So, but yeah, there's we know all sorts of authors. So if you need kid book recommendations and stuff, reach out. It's just that we're not reading them. All right, well, we've babbled enough.
We have.
It's time to...
And let's see where season 4 takes us.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans.